Hey guys, it's Yuta. So, there is an interesting discussion about the anime Sazae-san in Japan, and I want to share it with you. Now, Sazae-san is not a popular anime in the West, but it's actually the longest running animated TV show in the world, and it's super famous in Japan, to the extent that it's probably impossible to find somebody who grew up in Japan and doesn't know this anime, regardless of their generation. It's an anime about the daily life of a traditional Japanese family consisting of grandparents, parents and their siblings and their children, and they live all together. The original manga started more than 70 years ago after World War II, and they still maintain the family structure that was much more common back then, but it's not so common today. This is a very family-friendly show you can still watch in Japan every Sunday evening, and it's hardly ever controversial. But the episode of the 26th April got a lot of attention because of today's coronavirus situation. Basically, the family was going on a trip during the holiday when real-life Japanese people have to stay home. And some people apparently thought it was inappropriate. A news outlet covered this story and it got a lot of attention on social media. And it is true that you can find some comments on social media questioning the family's choice. The Isono family goes out in spite of the quarantine. Please don't go out. They are ignoring the request to stay home. But I have to say, I couldn't find comments that were really angry. It's more like some people were concerned. I'm a childcare worker. I know this is just an anime, but maybe the children will start to think, I want to go out too. And of course, many people understand this is just fiction. Watching Sazae-san yesterday, I thought that considering the current situation, maybe they shouldn't go on a trip, but then I remembered their world is different from ours. And actually, most people are saying, oh, it's just fiction. What do people want from Sazae-san? It's just an anime. Let them enjoy their Golden Week in peace. So Golden Week is basically a chunk of public holidays put together so that people can have a long holiday. Usually about a couple of weeks. But the anime doesn't exactly take in place in today's Japan. Pretty sure Sazae-san is set in the Showa era, so the coronavirus wouldn't even be relevant at all. And maybe it's not really a good idea to make the show about today's Japan. I wonder if the people complaining about this episode want every week's episodes to show the whole family stuck inside on lockdown, Katsuo getting agitated and starting fights with Wakame, and Sazae and Fune complaining about Namihei and Masuo being lazy and not doing housework. By the way, if you speak Japanese, you won't have to wait for me to make this kind of video to know what's going on in Japan and how anime is affecting Japanese people's lives. So if you want to learn Japanese with me, I can teach you the kind of Japanese the Japanese people actually speak today. So click the link in the description and subscribe. But anyway, it seems like it's only a very few people who are complaining, and I had trouble finding comments who were seriously against the episode. Almost all of the comments were saying it's not really a huge problem. Were there even any people criticizing Sazae-san? Even if there were a few, you are just taking the opinions of an uptight minority and making it seem like there's a lot of them. And it's true. And this kind of thing happens very often, where a tiny minority of people have some issues, but the media trying to make it seem like much more people are complaining. Outraged and controversial are just buzzwords used by online media to get clicks, so be aware of this when you read it. When I search for tweets containing the words Sazae-san, inappropriate, most of them weren't written after the episode aired, but instead after articles talking about the so-called controversy were released, and the vast majority of them are in support of Sazae-san. And another thing you should consider is that this article was published on Daily Sport, a very low quality newspaper. It's actually like gossip magazines, so educated Japanese people don't read this kind of paper or take this kind of paper seriously. So it's not surprising that the credibility of this article is questionable. Having said that, I'd like to go a bit further. Even though not a lot of people actually have problems with this episode, It is also true that many people are talking about it. And I think part of the reason is that even though they know this is fiction and it's not really a problem, they can somewhat relate to the underlying sentiment that you can't help judging characters based on the current situation, because they can't forget about the coronavirus even when they are watching an anime. But I think another reason is Sazae-san is an important part of Japanese culture. All across generations, Japanese people have watched this anime at least at some point in their life, and it has an important place in modern Japan, and some people are commenting about this point. I think the fact that other anime show things like war and bullying and nobody says anything, while people complain about Sazae's family just going out and enjoying Golden Week, shows that Sazae-san is such a beloved anime that we project our own lives onto it. And there's another anime that's also pretty popular in Japan, and that is Crayon Shinchan. Unlike Sazae-san, Shinchan takes place in today's Japan, and they seem to be changing their episodes based on the current situation. To think that Crayon Shinchan, the #1 program you don't want to show your kids, did an episode on staying home, while Japan's treasure Sazae-san has the family out enjoying Golden Week. Shinchan started out as a very unpopular anime with parents because Shinchan's behavior is very inappropriate for kids. So that's kind of interesting. But Kyubey doesn't have to stay home because he's not a human being. And of course, when you start talking about anime, there are always people who want to recommend their favorite anime. To the people who are complaining, I recommend you watch Eromanga Sensei. The main heroine, Sagiri Izumi, is a shatzin who almost never leaves her room. But I doubt Eromanga Sensei is as family friendly as Sazae-san. But overall, I think this is a good example of how anime is part of Japanese culture and today's Japanese people's lives. So if you watch popular anime in Japan, it will help you to understand some part of Japanese culture. But the thing is, a lot of nuances of Japanese anime is lost in translation. So if you want to really understand Japanese anime, you need to speak Japanese, and if you want to learn Japanese with me, I can teach you the kind of Japanese that Japanese people today actually speak, which can be different from the kind of Japanese that textbooks teach you. So click the link and subscribe to my email group, Japanese with Yuta. Alright, see you guys soon. Ciao ciao!